With us now is Democratic Congressman Brad Sherman of California. He represents the 32nd Congressional District, which includes many of these affected neighborhoods of Pacific Palisades, Brentwood, and Encino. Congressman, thank you so much for making time for us this evening. I know it is a very difficult time for you and the community, but I just wanted to start by asking you how you and your constituents are doing. Have they been able to find shelter, safe shelter, under these evacuation orders and circumstances?
We have shelters, including one just down the street from my home here in Sherman Oaks. These shelters tend to accommodate pets, including the one here in Sherman Oaks. And in addition, most insurance companies will pay for your hotel bill if you're in a mandatory evacuation effort. And FEMA will also help those who are uninsured. So whether it's a hotel, whether it's a shelter, there's a place to go. A lot of people were getting erroneous emergency alerts. That annoyed 10 million people in this county. That's been brought under control. So if you get an emergency alert now, it's for real. And if you're supposed to evacuate, evacuate.
I want to play something that a resident in the Sunset Mesa area told my colleague Allison Barber earlier. She was in a line of cars for about 6 hours trying to get home. And we'll get your thoughts on the other side of this, sir.
What have they told you about when you can go home?
We haven't heard anything. Yeah.
What do you think about the response? You know, there's been a lot of back and forth lately between the fire chief saying the department was underfunded and they didn't have the resources. Do you feel like the city failed here?
I think the organization hasn't been the best.
Get your thoughts on that, sir. As you heard there, as Allison hinted there, the LA fire chief has said the city has failed her agency. Your response?
Every agency head feels that they need more money. There was a dispute here over about 2 or 3% of the budget. But I think that when we look at this, it's not how did we respond when the fire started, but what did we do to put ourselves in this position? These are extraordinary wins, but this is not a once-in-a-century event. And we do have a perfect storm with the foliage because we had 2 wet winters to grow the foliage, and now we've had a dry winter to dry it out. But ultimately, we're going to have building codes. We have a good building code, but it only applies to buildings built 2008 and thereafter. We need to go retrofit and make sure that all not only the new construction, but older construction meets what we call the Chapter 17A. We need to do a much better job in managing the foliage around homes. Just a gap of 5 feet, 10 feet around your home can make a hell of a difference. But now's not the best time to try to analyze all these issues, but we got to put out the fire, but then we can't lose interest in what will be some very expensive changes in the way we live.
Let me get your thoughts on the water situation. Governor Newsom is now asking for an investigation into the loss of water pressure to local fire hydrants. Officials have said that the storage tanks and pumping systems that feed the hydrants just couldn't keep pace with the demands for those fires. Was the city prepared as it should have been? I mean, does Los Angeles need to rethink its water system?
First of all, this is not a water shortage. As you pointed out earlier, people are going into Encino Reservoir. It's filled, and people are not being asked around the city to conserve water. This is a matter of pumping and water pressure in an elevated area, namely the Palisades. And they have a system that's a good system, except for this kind of event. They did not plan for this event. They planned for ordinary operations, keep people in their homes and happy and in their showers, and then put out the occasional 1 house fire or 2 house fires. Good system for that. Not enough water at altitude that would create the water pressure coming down. The purpose of these tanks isn't so much to store water. It's to have water at a higher altitude that will come down and create the pressure. So I know that Trump was talking about how this relates to how much water goes into the ocean from Northern California rivers and the smelts, fish, and all. None of that matters here. Usually, often in Los Angeles, we have to conserve water. This is not, we've got what for us is a whole lot of water. This is a matter of having water pressure at a higher than usual elevation, and having a system that's not just designed to deal with one or two houses being on fire.
Yeah, and we're showing some of the live pictures of those efforts that are taking place in Mandeville Canyon, California, as firefighting efforts to contain and put out the blaze there continue well into the Saturday afternoon West Coast time. I wanted to get your thoughts, Congressman, at what was said at a press conference today. A FEMA official announcing their individual assistance program to offer help with the cost of house repairs, as well as temporary housing, something you were alluding to in your first answer, even the cost of medical bills and the funerals. As of this morning, 16,000 people have applied for the program. In the coming days and weeks, I can only imagine that number is going to surge. How will you work with the governor and the incoming Trump administration to assure the residents to continue to seek assistance through all of this?
Well, I've sent an email out to everyone in my district as to what the benefits are and how to apply. And then we've got to go back to Washington and provide greater benefits than the standard statute, just as we did for Hawaii and Lahaina. There's $43,600 for housing-related things as a grant, not a loan. $43,600 for everything else, from funerals to burned-out car. And, of course, this is only uninsured losses. If your insurance company is going to pay, the government won't. And then there's a program to lend up to $500,000 at a low interest rate to rebuild the home. But we've got people with very substantial homes with very inadequate insurance. They couldn't get insurance. And we're going to need to provide funds for CDBG grants to people who have lost everything and cannot rebuild their home even for $43,000.
This may be a broad question to end on, but what do you think fundamentally needs to change as we go forward? I mean, I know the road ahead, and you suggested this a little bit, we're going to have to rethink a lot. But what do we have to rethink about cities like LA or the way that we are currently living, where these natural disasters are becoming more extreme? And it seems, as we're learning, our cities are underprepared.
We have a building code. We call it Chapter 7A. We've got to make sure all homes meet that standard, not just the ones that were built since 2008. And, of course, the ones that will be rebuilt in the Palisades will meet the standard. We need to look at that nationwide, not necessarily every house, but certainly every house in an area that could in any way be hit with a wildfire. We need to manage vegetation around homes. And it has to be, frankly, heavy-handed and compulsory. If we've got to send inspectors out to every home and you don't clear it, government's got to come in and clear it, send you the bill. You don't pay the bill, that becomes part of your property tax lien. And, people don't like to be told, oh, I have to move a favorite bush. Oh, I have to trim a tree. And the government came in while I was at work and trimmed the tree for me on my own land. That will make people angry. It offends the kind of super individualism that runs deep in America. But we're now a society. And if your tree is too close to your house and it burns up, that endangers the life of people, not only in your home, but all the surrounding homes and the firefighters that come to save your home. And this idea that, it's the government is supposed to save everything at the last minute. I don't have to worry about fire. I don't have to worry about my vegetation. Something happens, I just call 911, and it's up to them to solve the problem. That's an attitude that has to change.
All right, California Congressman Brad Sherman, thank you so much, sir. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.